Jake Sullivan sat in the big meeting room and wished he was somewhere else. Anywhere else. The room was full of aliens from all over the galaxy. They were all staring at him. They had been staring at him for 6 hours now. His coffee was cold. His back hurt. And the aliens were still confused about the same simple thing. The alien from the Zintari planet spoke again. Its name was Shimmerstone, at least that was what the translation computer called it. The creature looked like a walking crystal. Light bounced off its body in pretty colors. But right now those colors looked angry. Shimmerstone said through the translator, "Please explain one more time. Why does your planet change the time twice every year?" Jake took a deep breath. He had explained this so many times already. He was tired of explaining it. But he had to try again. "We call it daylight saving time," Jake said slowly. "In the spring, we move all the clocks forward by 1 hour. In the fall, we move them back by 1 hour. Another alien spoke up. This one was called Vex. He had purple fur and 3 eyes. All 3 eyes blinked at the same time. He looked very confused. "But why would you do that?" Vex asked. His voice sounded genuinely curious. "What is the reason?" Jake knew this answer would sound stupid. It always did. "We do it to save energy, and to use the daylight better." A third alien stood up fast. This one was Commander Zex from the Krolon Empire. He looked like a giant insect. His hard shell made clicking sounds when he moved. His voice was flat and hard. "You cannot save time," Commander Zex said. "Time is constant. It moves at a fixed speed. This is basic physics. This is a fact of the universe." Jake held up his hands. "We do not actually change time itself. We just change what the clocks say. The time is still the same. Only the numbers on our clocks are different." The room went very quiet. All the aliens stared at Jake. Some of them had mouths that hung open. Others had sensors that beeped in confusion. One small alien in the corner made a sound like a kettle boiling over. Vex spoke again. His voice was very slow and careful. "Let me understand this. You change what the measuring device says, but you do not change what it measures." "Yes," Jake said. He felt happy that someone was starting to understand. "Exactly right." "So the time stays the same," Shimmerstone said slowly. "But your clocks tell you the wrong time on purpose." Jake opened his mouth to argue. Then he closed it again. When Shimmerstone put it that way, it did sound really bad. "Well, when you say it like that," Jake started to say, but he did not know how to finish the sentence. Then a new voice entered the conversation. This voice was not spoken out loud. It appeared directly inside everyone's head. The voice belonged to Counselor Prime Whisperwind. She was very old and very powerful. She could speak directly into minds. Right now, her mental voice sounded very, very tired. "Let me be clear about what I'm hearing." Whisperwind's thought voice said to everyone, "Your species comes from a death world. Your planet is covered in things that try to kill you. You survived ice ages. You survived giant rocks falling from space. You learned how to split atoms. You learned how to travel faster than light. But you cannot agree on what time it is?" Jake felt his face get hot. "That is basically correct, yes. And some parts of your world do this time-changing thing," Whisperwind continued. "But other parts do not?" "That is also correct," Jake admitted. "Arizona does not change their clocks. Most of Indiana does not either. But some parts of Indiana do. It is very complicated." Commander Zex stood up again. His shell rattled with anger. "This is crazy. We have 17,000 star systems. All of them use Galactic Standard Time. We worked very hard to make this happen. Trade needs it. Communication needs it. Our military needs it. Everything needs everyone to agree on what time it is." "Oh, we understand that," Jake said quickly. "That is why Earth uses Galactic Standard Time for all space activities. The daylight saving time is only for things happening on Earth." Vex made a gesture with his furry hands. "But your Earth time affects your space activities. We have reports. When humans on Earth need to talk to humans in space colonies during the time change, bad things happen. Cargo ships arrive at the wrong time. Diplomatic calls get missed. One human cargo ship jumped to hyperspace 6 hours late because the captain forgot to change his clock." Jake remembered that incident. Captain Henry Brooks had sent many apology messages afterward. The cargo had been medical supplies. People had been waiting for them. "That was unfortunate," Jake said quietly. "Unfortunate," repeated a small alien from the back of the room. "People needed medicine. They did not get it on time because a human could not remember if his clock was lying to him or not." Jake did not know what to say to that. He looked down at his notes. His notes did not help. His notes just had more examples of how daylight saving time confused everyone. Shimmerstone's crystal body pulsed with different colors. Jake had learned that this meant the alien was thinking hard. Finally, Shimmerstone spoke. "I have a question," the crystal alien said. "Does this time-changing thing actually save energy?" "Do you have proof?" Jake shifted in his seat. This was an uncomfortable question. The studies are mixed. Some studies say it saves a little energy. Other studies say it does not save anything. And some studies say it actually uses more energy. "So you do not know if it works," Vex said. "Not really, no. But you keep doing it anyway." "Yes." The room was silent again. This was a different kind of silence than before. Before, the aliens had been confused. Now they were amazed. They could not believe what they were hearing. Finally, Whisperwind spoke in everyone's minds again. Her mental voice was slow and careful. "So let me make sure I understand everything. You do something that confuses everyone. You do not know if it helps. It causes problems with space travel and trade. But you keep doing it because..." "Why exactly?" Jake thought about this question. Why did humans keep doing daylight saving time? The truth was that most humans did not like it. Most humans wanted to stop doing it. But somehow they just kept doing it anyway. It was tradition. It was habit. It was hard to change. "Human politics are complicated," Jake said finally. It was a weak answer. He knew it was a weak answer. "Humans are complicated," muttered an alien from somewhere in the back. "They live on a planet that tries to kill them every day. They learn to make fusion reactors and faster-than-light engines. But they cannot agree on what time it is." Other aliens made sounds of agreement. Some clicked. Some hummed. Some flashed lights. But they all agreed. Humans were very strange. Jake sat back in his chair. The meeting was not going well. The aliens thought humans were crazy, and honestly, Jake was starting to think they had a point. Daylight saving time was a stupid idea. It always had been. But explaining that to the entire galaxy was exhausting. "Can we take a break?" Jake asked. "Maybe we can continue this discussion tomorrow." Whisperwind's mental voice sighed in everyone's heads. "Very well. We will continue tomorrow. Perhaps by then, Ambassador Sullivan, you will have thought of a better explanation for why your species lies to itself about what time it is." Jake stood up and left the room quickly. Behind him, he could hear the aliens talking among themselves. They were probably trying to understand how humans had survived long enough to join galactic civilization. Jake did not blame them for wondering. Sometimes he wondered the same thing himself. 3 weeks passed after the big meeting. Jake thought maybe the worst was over. The aliens seemed to accept that humans were just weird about time. Everything seemed calm. Then Dr. Lisa Chen burst into his office. Lisa worked as the head of the Temporal Coordination Bureau. That was a fancy name for the people who tried to make sure human time worked with galactic time. She was very good at her job. But right now, she looked scared. Her hair was messy. Her clothes were wrinkled. She was holding her tablet so tight that her hands were white. She walked straight to Jake's desk without saying hello. "We have a big problem," Lisa said. Her voice was shaking a little. Jake looked up from his work. He had been reading a very boring report about trade agreements. "What kind of problem?" Lisa took a deep breath. "The kind where half the galaxy thinks we attacked them with a time weapon." Jake put down his tablet very slowly and carefully. "Please explain that to me." Lisa pulled up a hologram. It showed a big network of connected computers and systems. Lines connected everything together like a spider web. "You know how Earth's internet is connected to the galactic data network, right?" "Yes," Jake said. He was starting to feel sick to his stomach. "And you know how a lot of Earth's computer servers still use Earth time instead of galactic standard time?" Jake closed his eyes. "Oh no. Oh yes," Lisa said. "Last Sunday morning at 2 a.m, daylight saving time happened. Millions of computers all over Earth changed their clocks forward by 1 hour, all at the same time." Jake wanted to hide under his desk. "Tell me what happened." Lisa pointed at different parts of the hologram. "These Earth computers are used as backup servers. Backup servers are like safety copies. If the main computer breaks, the backup takes over. This keeps everything running smoothly." "I know what backup servers are," Jake said quietly. "Right. Well, Earth's backup servers support 60% of the galactic banking network. They support 40% of all shipping coordination. And somehow they support the entire Zintari military command structure. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Please tell me those servers did not change time on Sunday. They changed time on Sunday, Lisa said. She looked like she wanted to cry. The clocks jumped forward 1 hour. The servers tried to sync with the main systems. Some of them succeeded. Some of them failed very badly. How bad is it? Jake asked. He was afraid to hear the answer. Lisa started listing problems. The Krolon Empire's supply fleet is stuck in space. Their navigation computers think they are supposed to be 1 hour in the future. They cannot calculate where to go. 3 major stock exchanges had to stop all trading. Trillions of credits are frozen. And the Zintari military almost started a war. Jake stood up fast. His chair fell over backward. What? Why would they start a war? Their sensors lost 1 hour of data. From their perspective, someone attacked their systems with a time weapon. They thought someone was trying to delete information. They almost launched their defense fleet. Jake sat down on the edge of his desk. His legs felt weak. This is bad. This is really, really bad. It gets worse, Lisa said. The Galactic Council is meeting right now. They are having an emergency session. They want us to explain why we disrupted half the galaxy's computer systems. But we did not mean to, Jake protested. We have protocols. We have safety systems. How did this happen? Lisa gave him a look. It was the kind of look that teachers give to students who ask silly questions. Jake, when you connect 17,000 star systems together, you need backup systems. Backups keep everything safe. Earth's computers became part of those backups because our technology is cheap and reliable. We have good internet everywhere on Earth. Okay, Jake said slowly. Nobody thought about daylight saving time, Lisa continued. Nobody realized that we tell our clocks to lie to us twice a year. The galactic systems thought our backups were reliable. They did not know the backups would suddenly jump forward in time for no reason. Jake grabbed his formal jacket. We need to go to the council meeting now. What are you going to tell them? Lisa asked. Jake put on his jacket. The truth. That this was not an attack. That it was just humans being incredibly stupid about time. I do not think that will make them feel better, Lisa said quietly. Probably not, Jake agreed. But it is better than letting them think we have a time weapon. They walked quickly through the halls of the embassy. Other human staff members saw them and looked worried. News of the problem was spreading fast. Everyone knew something bad had happened. On their way to the council chamber, Jake's communicator started beeping. He looked at it and saw dozens of messages. Angry messages from other species. Confused messages from human colonies. Panicked messages from Earth governments. One message was from the Krolon commander Zex. It was short and angry. It said, "You told us the time changing was only for domestic use. You lied." Jake felt terrible. They had not lied. They had just not understood how connected everything was. Earth's domestic computer systems were not domestic anymore. They were part of the galactic infrastructure. And nobody had realized it until now. How long until we get to the council? Jake asked. 5 minutes, Lisa said. Are you ready? Jake thought about what he would say. He would have to explain how daylight saving time worked. Again. Then he would have to explain how it had accidentally broken the galaxy's computer systems. Then he would have to convince everyone that humans were not idiots. That last part would be the hardest. No, Jake said honestly. I am not ready at all. But we do not have a choice. They reached the big doors to the council chamber. Jake could hear angry voices on the other side. Multiple species were shouting at the same time. Some were using translators. Others were using telepathy. The mental noise was giving Jake a headache. Lisa looked at Jake. Good luck. Thanks, Jake said. I am going to need it. The doors opened. Jake walked into the council chamber. Every alien in the room turned to look at him. Their expressions ranged from angry to confused to something that might have been fear. They all wanted answers. Jake took a deep breath and walked to the center of the room. He was about to try to explain how humanity had accidentally disrupted galactic civilization because they could not agree on what time it is. He had a feeling this was going to be a very long day. The council chamber was complete chaos. Aliens were yelling in 17 different languages. Holographic screens showed computer systems failing all over the galaxy. In one corner, Vex the Malarian looked like he was about to faint. His purple fur was standing straight up. Counselor Prime Whisperwind floated in the middle of the room. Her telepathic mind was trying to calm everyone down, but nobody was listening. Everyone was too angry or too scared. When she saw Jake enter, her mental voice cut through all the noise like a sharp knife. Ambassador Sullivan, how nice of you to finally arrive. Perhaps you can explain why your computer systems are telling my navigation computers that it is both 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock at the same time. Jake walked to the middle of the room. Every eye, sensor, and telepathic mind focused on him. He felt very small and very human. Honored council members, there has been a serious mistake in how we connected our systems to yours. What you experienced was not an attack. It was daylight saving time. Commander Zek stood up. His insect body clicked and rattled with anger. The stupid time ritual you told us about in our last meeting? You said it was only for domestic use. You said it would not affect us. It was supposed to be only for domestic use, Jake said. The problem is that our domestic systems became connected to galactic systems. Nobody realized how connected everything had become. Lisa stepped forward. She brought up technical diagrams in the air with her tablet. Everyone could see the complicated web of connections between Earth and the galaxy. When Earth joined the Galactic Union, we were new to space travel. Our technology was simple and cheap, but we had a lot of it. As time went on, galactic systems started using Earth servers as backups. Backups, Shimmerstone said. The crystal alien's body flashed with angry colors. You are telling us that critical galactic systems use Earth computers as backups, and those Earth computers change what time they think it is twice per year. That is correct, Lisa said. She looked very uncomfortable. Your computers lie about time, Shimmerstone said flatly. And we trusted them to keep our systems safe. Jake wanted to argue, but he could not. Shimmerstone was right. When you thought about it that way, it was completely crazy. Who would trust timekeeping to systems that periodically lied about what time it was? Vex raised one of his 3-fingered hands. He looked calmer now. His fur was not standing up anymore. May I ask a question? Please do, Jake said. He was grateful for any question that was not yelling. Why do you still do this daylight saving time thing? At our last meeting, you admitted your own people do not like it. You said it confuses everyone. Your studies show it barely saves any energy. What possible reason could you have to keep doing it? Jake opened his mouth to answer. Then he closed it. Then he opened it again. The truth was embarrassing. The truth was that humans kept doing daylight saving time because changing it was hard. Politicians could not agree on what to do. Some people wanted to keep it. Some people wanted to stop it. Some people wanted permanent summertime. Some people wanted permanent winter time. Everyone argued and nobody did anything. We are working on it, Jake said finally. He knew how pathetic that sounded. You are working on it, a small alien from the Harmony Collective repeated slowly. The alien communicated with flashing lights. Right now, those lights looked very skeptical. For how long have you been working on this? Jake did not want to answer, but he had to. About 100 years. The entire room went silent. Not just quiet, silent. Even the holographic displays seemed to freeze in shock. Every being in the room stared at Jake like he had just said something completely impossible. Whisperwind's mental voice was very slow and very careful. You have been trying to stop lying to yourselves about time for an entire human century, and you have not succeeded. Human politics are very complicated, Jake said weakly. A small delegate spoke up from the back. Jake did not recognize the species. Humans are the complicated ones. You survive on a planet that tries to kill you every day. You invented fusion power. You invented faster than light travel, but you cannot agree on what time it is. Several other aliens made sounds of agreement. Some clicked. Some hummed. Some flashed lights. But they all agreed that humans were very, very strange. Lisa stepped forward again. To be fair, we did warn you that humans were unusual. It was in our first contact documents. Section 7. Subsection 3 specifically said that Earth has unusual psychological and social characteristics. Vex made a gesture with his furry hands. We thought that meant your tendency to make friends with any creature that moves, or your ability to eat foods that would poison most species, or your strange habit of drinking poison for fun. We did not expect you to create time chaos. Time chaos is a strong term, Jake said. Is it? Commander Zex asked. His voice was cold. The Krolon supply fleet is stranded in space. They cannot navigate. My people are running out of supplies on 3 colony worlds. The stock exchanges have frozen trillions of credits. Trade has stopped across 60 star systems. and the Zintari almost started a war because they thought someone was attacking them with a time weapon. What would you call that if not chaos? Jake had no answer for that. Commander Zex was absolutely right. What humans had done was chaos. Complete total chaos, and it was all because they could not agree on what time it should be. Shimmerstone's crystal body pulsed with colors. Jake was learning to read those colors. Right now they showed deep thought mixed with frustration. I propose we give humanity an ultimatum. Either stop this daylight saving time nonsense completely, or disconnect all Earth systems from galactic infrastructure. Jake felt panic rise in his chest. You cannot do that. Earth's economy depends on connection to the galactic network. Our colonies need it. Our trade needs it. Cutting us off would hurt billions of humans. Then stop lying about what time it is, Shimmerstone said simply. The solution is very easy. It is not that easy, Jake protested. Human politics are complicated. Different regions want different things. Getting everyone to agree will take time. You have had 100 years, Vex pointed out. How much more time do you need? Whisperwind's mental voice filled the room again. The council will vote on this proposal. But first, let me be clear about something. The galaxy has 17,000 star systems. All of them coordinate their time. All of them work together. We cannot have one species disrupting everything because they cannot make a simple decision. She paused. Her telepathic presence swept across everyone in the room. When she spoke again, her voice was firm. Humanity will have one Earth year to fix this problem. Either abolish daylight saving time completely, or we will disconnect your systems from the galactic network. Those are your options. 1 year, Jake said. That is not enough time to coordinate a global vote and implementation. You have had a century, Commander Zex said coldly. 1 more year is generous. Whisperwind looked at Jake with her ancient eyes. Do you understand, Ambassador? This is not negotiable. Fix your time problem, or lose your connection to galactic civilization. You have 1 year. Jake looked at Lisa. She looked back at him with wide eyes. They both knew what this meant. They had to convince all of humanity to give up a tradition that had persisted for over a century. They had to do it in just 1 year. And if they failed, Earth would be isolated from the galaxy. I understand, Jake said quietly. We will fix this. See that you do, Whisperwind said. This council is dismissed. Jake and Lisa walked out of the chamber in silence. Behind them, they could hear aliens talking in low voices. The general consensus seemed to be that humans were the strangest species anyone had ever met. Jake could not argue with that assessment. Right now, he felt pretty strange himself. The Galactic Council wanted a solution. They wanted it fast. Jake and Lisa spent 3 days working with engineers from 40 different alien species. They all tried to find a way to prevent future time problems. The solution they came up with seemed perfect. They would create a special temporal buffer zone. This was like a translator, but for time. All Earth computers connected to galactic systems would stay on Galactic Standard Time. The buffer would translate between Earth's changing domestic time and the galaxy's fixed time. That way, Earth could keep doing daylight saving time and the galaxy would never notice. The council looked at the plans. They asked questions. The engineers explained everything. Finally, the council approved the solution. Engineers from multiple species worked together to build it. Everyone was proud of themselves. They had solved an impossible problem. The system worked perfectly through the summer. Earth changed to daylight saving time. The buffer caught the change and translated it. The galaxy never noticed. Everything seemed fine. Then autumn came. On the first Sunday in November at 2 in the morning, all the clocks on Earth fell back 1 hour. Daylight saving time ended. The temporal buffer system detected the change. It had been designed to handle this exact situation. It successfully translated Earth's domestic time to Galactic Standard Time. Everything should have worked perfectly, but someone had forgotten one very important detail. The buffer system itself was running on servers located on Earth, specifically in New Jersey. A programmer named Kyle Martinez had designed the elegant architecture. His servers hosted the entire temporal translation system. When those servers in New Jersey rolled back to 1 in the morning, they had already lived through the hour between 1 and 2. From the server's perspective, time had just moved backward. The buffer system experienced what it thought was a temporal paradox. The system did what any rational computer would do when time moved backward. It assumed something had gone catastrophically wrong with reality itself. It triggered every emergency protocol at the same time. It broadcast a galaxy-wide temporal anomaly alert. 17,000 star systems received the alert. The message said that time itself was breaking. 300 military fleets went to maximum alert. Scientific observatories across the galaxy started looking for temporal rifts. The Zintari High Council, already suspicious of humans and their time games, began evacuating their home system. Kyle Martinez was sleeping peacefully in his apartment when his personal communicator started beeping. Then it started ringing. Then it started screaming. 17,000 emergency calls tried to reach him at the same time. His communicator could not handle that many messages. It made a sad buzzing sound and caught fire. Kyle jumped out of bed. He grabbed a fire extinguisher and put out his burning communicator. Then he looked at his computer screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Error messages filled his screen. Millions of error messages, all saying the same thing. Temporal anomaly detected. Causality violation. Time moving backward. It took Kyle 15 minutes to understand what had happened. It took him another hour to shut down the emergency alerts. By then, the damage was done. Half the galaxy was convinced that Earth had either tested a time weapon or accidentally broken the universe, the emergency council. Session that followed made the previous emergency session look peaceful and calm. Commander, Zex was so angry that his exoskeleton was literally shaking. His voice came out as a hiss. You built a safety system that had a panic attack because your clocks went backward? Kyle stood next to Jake at the center of the council chamber. He still smelled a bit like burnt electronics. His hair was messy and his clothes were wrinkled. He had not slept. Time should never go backward, he said defensively. It violates causality. It breaks the laws of physics. The system did exactly what it was supposed to do when faced with impossible conditions. Shimmerstone's crystal body flashed with annoyed colors. But time did not go backward. Your clocks displayed wrong information. Again. This is the same problem as before. From the computer's perspective, that is the same thing, Kyle protested. The server thinks it went from 2 o'clock back to 1 o'clock. How is it supposed to know the clock is lying? Vex raised one furry hand. His 3 eyes blinked slowly. Let me make sure I understand. You built a system to prevent time chaos from your clock changes, but you built it on servers that also experience those clock changes. So when the clocks changed, your safety system thought the universe was ending. That is technically correct, Kyle admitted. He looked like he wanted to disappear. Whisper Wind's telepathic presence filled the room. Her mental voice was very, very tired. So to summarize, you created a solution to fix your time problem. But the solution itself was vulnerable to the same time problem. And when the time problem occurred, your solution caused more chaos than the original problem. Jake nodded slowly. Yes, that is an accurate summary. The room was silent for a long moment. Then a small delegate in the back started laughing. It was a strange sound, like wind chimes mixed with hiccups. Soon other aliens joined in. Each species had its own way of expressing humor. Some clicked. Some hummed. Some flashed lights. But they were all laughing at the absurdity of the situation. Only Commander Zex was not laughing. This is not funny. 3 of my colony worlds are still without supplies. The stock exchanges are still frozen. And I had to explain to my superiors why we went to maximum military alert. Because a human computer got confused about what time it was. The laughter stopped. Everyone remembered that real harm had been done. Ships were stranded. Trade was stopped. People were scared. All because of daylight saving time. Vex spoke again. His voice was gentle but firm. I have a simple question. A question that I think needs to be asked again. What is your question? Jake asked. He was too tired to be defensive anymore. Why do you still do daylight saving time? You have space travel. You have artificial intelligence. You have fusion reactors and faster-than-light engines. But you cannot simply keep your clocks consistent? Jake looked around the room. He saw representatives from hundreds of different species. Species that had mastered incredible technology. Species that had solved problems humans could only dream about. They were all looking at him, waiting for an answer that would make sense. Jake thought about all the arguments for daylight saving time. The energy savings that did not really exist. The tradition that nobody actually liked. The political gridlock that prevented any change. The decades of debate that went nowhere. He thought about how humans had been trying to fix this problem for 100 years and failed. Honestly, Jake said quietly, I have no idea why we still do it. It makes no sense. It never really made sense. We just keep doing it. The honesty of his answer seemed to surprise the council. Whisperwind's mental voice softened slightly. At least you admit it. That is something. But admission is not enough, Commander Zek said firmly. Our ultimatum stands. You have 1 year to abolish daylight saving time, or we will disconnect all Earth systems from the galactic network. No more extensions. No more clever solutions that break in new and creative ways. Jake nodded. He was too exhausted to argue. I understand. We will fix this. For real this time. Shimmerstone's crystal body pulsed. See that you do. Because the next time your timeline causes problems, we will not be so understanding. Jake and Kyle and Lisa left the council chamber together. None of them spoke. They all knew what had to happen now. They had to convince billions of humans to give up a practice that everyone hated, but nobody wanted to change. It was going to be the hardest political campaign in human history. And they had less than 1 year to succeed. What happened next was probably the biggest political movement in human history. The Great Time Debate took over Earth for months. Every news channel talked about it. Every social media platform argued about it. Politicians who had ignored the issue for decades suddenly found themselves facing angry voters. Nobody wanted to be the politician who got Earth disconnected from galactic civilization. Nobody wanted to explain to voters why they could not trade with alien species anymore. Nobody wanted to be responsible for isolating humanity from the stars. The debate was fierce and loud. People had strong opinions about daylight saving time. They had been complaining about it for decades. But now they actually had to decide what to do about it. Some people called themselves traditionalists. They argued that daylight saving time was part of their cultural heritage. Their grandparents had done it. Their parents had done it. They should keep doing it too. Change was scary. Farmers had a different view. They pointed out that they had never cared what the clock said. Cows did not understand human timekeeping. Crops grew when they grew. The sun rose when it rose. Clocks were irrelevant to actual farm work. So farmers mostly just shrugged and said they would go along with whatever everyone else decided. Parents organized protests. They were worried about children walking to school in the dark. If clocks stayed on summertime all year, winter mornings would be very dark. If clocks stayed on wintertime all year, summer evenings would end earlier. Either way, someone would be unhappy. Energy companies presented studies. Some studies said daylight saving time saved energy. Other studies said it did not. Other studies said it actually used more energy. The studies all contradicted each other. The energy savings, if they existed at all, were too small to measure accurately. Scientists tried to help. They explained that human bodies work on natural rhythms. Changing the clock twice a year disrupted those rhythms. Studies showed that heart attacks increased after time changes. Car accidents increased. Workplace accidents increased. People were tired and grumpy for weeks after each change, but none of these rational arguments made the final difference. Logic did not win the debate. Science did not convince people. In the end, what changed everything was much simpler than that. Humanity was embarrassed. A Malarian comedian named Fuzztail released a comedy special. It was all about humanity's weird relationship with time. The special went viral across the entire galaxy. Trillions of beings watched it. They laughed at the jokes about humans being tough enough to survive on a death world, but too confused to agree on what time it was. The bit that got the most attention was a simple observation. Fuzztail pointed out that humans could split atoms, travel faster than light, and cure diseases that terrified other species. But twice a year they all got together and agreed to lie to themselves about what time it was, and then they got mad at each other for being confused about it. The galaxy thought this was hilarious. Suddenly, daylight saving time jokes were everywhere. Alien talk show hosts made fun of it. Alien parents used it as an example when explaining human irrationality to their children. The phrase became a universal symbol of pointless confusion. When something was needlessly complicated and stupid, people said it was very daylight saving time. Humans did not like being the joke. Nobody likes being laughed at by trillions of aliens. The embarrassment was too much. Politicians who had defended daylight saving time suddenly changed their minds. Public opinion shifted fast. People realized that maybe, just maybe, the rest of the galaxy had a point. A global referendum was scheduled. Every human government participated. The question was simple. Should Earth permanently abolish daylight saving time and keep clocks consistent all year? The debate leading up to the vote was intense, but the embarrassment factor was too strong. Nobody wanted to be the person who voted to keep being the galaxy's punchline. When the votes were counted, the result was clear. 78% of humans voted to abolish daylight saving time forever. Jake watched the results come in from his office at the embassy. Lisa was with him. They sat together in silence as the numbers appeared on the screen. Region after region reported overwhelming support for ending the practice. "We did it," Lisa said quietly. She sounded like she could not quite believe it. "After 100 years of trying, we actually did it." "We did not do it," Jake said with a small smile. "A Malarian comedian did it. Fuzztail accomplished in one comedy special what politicians could not do in a century." Lisa laughed. It was a tired laugh, but a real one. "I should send Fuzztail a thank you card." The last time change happened on a crisp autumn morning. At 2 a.m, clocks across most of Earth fell back 1 hour for the final time. Engineers monitored all the systems carefully. They watched every server, every connection, every piece of infrastructure that linked Earth to the galaxy. The temporal buffer system processed the change correctly. It sent its final translation updates, then it shut down permanently. It was no longer needed. Earth's clocks would never lie again. From that day forward, Earth kept its clocks on the same time all year. It took a few weeks for people to adjust. Some people complained about dark winter mornings. Others complained about early summer sunsets. But mostly people just got used to it, and they realized that life was actually easier when everyone agreed on what time it was. 6 months after the final time change, Jake stood in the Galactic Council chamber again. This time, he was there to present the final report on humanity's temporal standardization. He felt much better than he had during his previous visits. "Honored council members," Jake began, "I am pleased to report that Earth has maintained consistent timekeeping for 186 consecutive days. All domestic systems now operate on Galactic Standard Time. The temporal buffer system has been permanently decommissioned. There have been no time-related incidents, no anomalies, and no accidentally triggered apocalypse alerts." The council members looked at each other. Some seemed surprised. Others seemed pleased. Commander Zex's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval. Whisper Wind's mental voice filled the chamber. She sounded almost warm. "Ambassador Sullivan, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I congratulate humanity on finally joining the civilized galaxy's consensus on what time it is. This is a significant achievement," Jake smiled. He tried not to think about how strange it was to be congratulated for agreeing on something as basic as what time it was. But he accepted the compliment gracefully. "Thank you, Counselor. We are glad to have resolved this issue." Vex raised a furry hand. "If I may say something, I want to acknowledge that this was not easy for humanity. Changing a century-old tradition is difficult. You faced significant political challenges, but you succeeded. That shows character." Other council members made sounds of agreement. Even Shimmerstone's crystal body pulsed with approving colors. Jake felt a warmth in his chest. The galaxy was acknowledging humanity's effort. That meant something. "However," Whisper Wind continued, and Jake felt his stomach sink a little, "we have received reports of a new human temporal phenomenon we wish to discuss." Jake's smile faded. "What phenomenon?" "Apparently, some human cultures celebrate the new year on different dates. We have 3 human colonies that currently disagree on when the new year begins. The lunar colony follows the traditional solar calendar. The Mars settlement uses a Martian year that is much longer, and the Europa station has invented its own calendar based on Jupiter's orbital period." Jake closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "I can explain that." "I am certain you can," Shimmerstone said. The crystal alien's colors looked amused. "Humans always have explanations. They are rarely logical, but they are always entertaining." The council chamber filled with the sounds of alien laughter. Jake stood there and accepted it. At least they were laughing with him now, not at him. That was progress. As he left the chamber later, Jake heard Vex comment to another delegate. "Deathworlders. They can survive anything except agreeing on what time it is." Jake smiled despite himself. It was a fair assessment, but at least now humanity agreed on what time it was. That was something. That was enough for today. 1 year after the abolition of daylight saving time, Jake sat in his office looking at reports from across human space. Earth had been running on consistent time for 12 full months. No more spring forward, no more fall back. Just regular, normal, consistent time. The results were interesting. Productivity had gone up slightly. Healthcare costs had dropped a little. Car accidents had decreased during the weeks that used to follow time changes. The benefits were small but real. More importantly, nobody missed the old system. After just 1 year, most people could hardly remember why they had kept doing it for so long. Lisa knocked on his door and walked in. She was carrying her tablet and smiling. "You need to see this." "What is it?" Jake asked. "Remember how the council was worried about human colonies using different calendars? Well, someone made a proposal. They want to create a unified human standard calendar for all colonies." Jake raised his eyebrows. "Really? And people are actually agreeing to this?" "Mostly, yes. Nobody wants to be the next galactic joke. The embarrassment from daylight saving time taught everyone a lesson. Now people are actually willing to cooperate on time-related standards." Jake laughed. "So all it took was becoming a punchline for trillions of aliens, and suddenly humans can coordinate on temporal issues." "Apparently so," Lisa said with a grin. "Though I would not recommend embarrassment as a general governance strategy." A message notification appeared on Jake's desk screen. It was from Counselor Whisperwind. Jake opened it and read it quickly. Then he read it again more slowly. "What does it say?" Lisa asked. "The Council wants to give humanity a commendation. They want to officially recognize our successful temporal standardization. There is going to be a ceremony." Lisa's eyes widened. "A commendation? For agreeing on what time it is?" "It sounds absurd when you say it like that," Jake admitted. "But I think they are being sincere. They know how hard it was for us to make this change." The ceremony was held 2 weeks later. The council chamber was decorated with symbols from Earth and from the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species attended. Jake stood at the center wearing his formal ambassador uniform. He felt a bit silly but also genuinely proud. Whisperwind floated forward. Her ancient presence filled the room with calm. "Today we recognize humanity for a significant achievement. Changing a century-old tradition is never easy. Overcoming political gridlock requires courage. Most importantly, humanity demonstrated the ability to learn from mistakes and adapt." She turned to Jake. "Ambassador Sullivan, you and Dr. Chen and all the humans who worked on this deserve recognition. You faced a crisis and you solved it. The galaxy is better for it." Jake accepted the ceremonial data crystal that represented the commendation. It was a beautiful thing, clear and gleaming. Inside it, information about Earth's temporal standardization was stored for the historical records. "Thank you," Jake said simply. "We learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the hardest changes are the ones that seem simplest." Vex stood up from his seat. His 3 eyes were bright. "I have watched humanity with interest since you joined the Galactic Union. You are strange, yes. You come from a death world, yes. But you are also adaptable. When you make mistakes, you fix them, even when it is hard. Even when it takes 100 years. That is admirable." Other council members made sounds of agreement. Even Commander Zex clicked his mandibles in approval. Shimmerstone's crystal body pulsed with warm colors. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Aliens from many different species came to talk to Jake. They asked questions about Earth. They shared stories about their own planets. Some of them even made jokes about daylight saving time. But the jokes were friendly now. The edge of mockery was gone. Fuzztail, the Malarian comedian who had started the whole galactic joke trend, approached Jake with a friendly expression. His purple fur was neatly groomed. "Ambassador Sullivan, I hope you know my comedy special was not meant to be cruel." Jake smiled. "Actually, you did us a favor. Your jokes accomplished what our politicians could not. You made us realize how ridiculous we looked. Sometimes embarrassment is the best teacher." Fuzztail looked relieved. "I am glad you see it that way. I have been working on new material. Would you like to hear a joke about how humans pack bond with dangerous predators?" "Maybe another time," Jake said with a laugh. "I think I have had enough embarrassment for 1 decade." As the evening continued, Jake found himself talking with Lisa near one of the large windows. They looked out at the stars. Thousands of lights twinkled in the darkness. Each light represented a star system, a civilization, a piece of the vast galactic community. "Do you think we learned our lesson?" Lisa asked quietly. "About daylight saving time? Definitely. No, I mean the bigger lesson. About cooperation. About standards. About being part of something larger than ourselves." Jake thought about that. "I think so. I think we learned that being part of galactic civilization means more than just using the same technology. It means agreeing on basic standards. It means putting cooperation above stubbornness. It means admitting when something we do makes no sense. That is very philosophical, Lisa said with a small smile. Well, having your entire species become a galactic punchline makes you philosophical, Jake replied. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars. Then Jake spoke again. You know what the funny thing is? Humans used to think we were special because we survived on a tough planet. We thought our ability to endure hardship made us unique. But the galaxy does not care about that. The galaxy cares about whether we can agree on what time it is. Lisa nodded. Maybe that is the real test of civilization. Not whether you can survive, not whether you can invent impressive technology, but whether you can cooperate on simple, boring things like keeping time consistent. And it only took us breaking the galaxy twice to learn that lesson, Jake said wryly. Better late than never, Lisa said. A few months later, Jake received a message from Earth. It was from the Global Temporal Standards Committee. They had completed their work. Earth now had a comprehensive plan for all time-related standards. Local times would remain for cultural purposes, but all official business would use Galactic Standard Time. All computer systems would use it. All space operations would use it. No more confusion. No more translation errors. No more temporal chaos. Jake forwarded the report to the Galactic Council. Whisperwind responded within hours. Her telepathic message was brief but warm. Well done, humanity. Welcome to temporal adulthood. Jake shared the message with Lisa. They both laughed at the phrase temporal adulthood, but they also felt proud. Humanity had grown up a little. They had learned to be better galactic citizens. That evening, Jake sat in his quarters and wrote a report for the historical archives. He wanted to document what had happened. Future generations should know about the time humanity broke the galaxy, because they could not agree on what time it was. They should know about the embarrassment, the crisis, and the eventual solution. He titled the report, The Daylight Saving Incident and What It Taught Us About Galactic Citizenship. In the report, he wrote about the importance of standards, about the value of cooperation, about the need to let go of traditions that no longer served any purpose, about the power of embarrassment as a motivator for change, but most importantly, he wrote about hope. Because if humanity could solve the daylight-saving time problem after 100 years of trying, then they could solve other problems too. If they could learn to agree on what time it was, they could learn to agree on other things. If they could overcome their stubbornness about clocks, they could overcome their stubbornness about other issues. Jake finished the report and saved it to the archives. Then he looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there on thousands of different worlds, beings were going about their lives. They were all using the same time. They were all cooperating. They were all part of something bigger than themselves. And now, finally, humanity was truly part of that community, not just because they had the technology, not just because they could survive on a death world, but because they had learned the simple, fundamental lesson that civilization requires. Everyone has to agree on what time it is.